September 3, 1855, Colonel William Harney uses 1,300 soldiers to massacre an entire Brule village in retribution for the killing of 30 soldiers who were killed in retribution for the killing of the Brule chief, Conquering Bear, in a dispute over a cow. 1862, the Homestead Act. A flood of settlers was unleashed upon the Indians' lands. August 18, 1862, beginning of the Sioux Uprising or Santee War in Minnesota, driving the Santee Sioux survivors from their homeland to the safety of the lands of their western relatives. By 1864, 90% of the Santee and many of the Teton who sheltered them were dead or in prison. December 26, 1862. The mass execution of 38 mostly innocent Sioux men in Mankato, Minnesota, for crimes during the Sioux Uprising. The trials of almost every adult male who had voluntarily surrendered to General Sibley, at the rate of up to 40 a day, were conducted under the premise of guilty until proven innocent. Originally, 303 men were condemned to death to hang. President Lincoln intervened and ordered a complete review of the records. This resulted in a reduced list of 40 to be executed. One was reprieved by the military because he had supplied testimony against many of the others. A sellout. A last-minute reprieve removed one more from the list. Another sellout. A mix-up in property recording the names of the men from the list. Associating the records with the proper men resulted in one man being ordered release for saving his woman's life a day after he was hung. November 29, 1864, massacre at Sand Creek. Colonel Chivington, a sometimes Methodist minister, leads a troop of volunteers and soldiers to Black Kettle's camp at Sand Creek with the sole purpose of killing peaceful Indians. They killed 105 Indian women and children and 28 men, many standing together under a U.S. flag and a white flag. Afterward, they were mutilated horribly and wore the severed parts of their saddles on their saddles and their hats. They cut genitals off of these people and used the man's sack to carry their tobacco in. Unbelievable as it may seem, this event is still classified as a major Civil War battle.
1844. After 3 decades of strife and multiple rulings, the island splits in two. 1862. After decades of delay, fearing that it would inspire its own slaves, the United States grants Haiti diplomatic recognition. In 1889, noted abolitionist Frederick Douglass becomes the U.S. Consul General. 1915. U.S. Marines occupy Haiti to calm a state of anarchy. The Americans improved the infrastructure by helping to create the Haitian Armed Forces.
April 9, 1865, General Lee surrenders to Grant at Appomattox. The Civil War ends. April 14, 1865, President Lincoln assassinated. Andrew Johnson, a half-breed, becomes president. July 1865, General Patrick Connor organized 3 columns of soldiers to begin an invasion of the Powder River Basin from the Black Hills, Pahasapa, to the Bighorn Mountains. They had one order: attack and kill every male Indian over 12 years of age. Pilots built a fort on the Powder River. Wagon trains began to cross the Powder River Basin on their way to Montana gold fields. July 24 through the 26th, 1865, the Battle of Plate Bridge. The Cheyennes and Lakota besieged the most northerly outpost of the U.S. Army and succeeded in killing all members of the platoon or cavalrymen sent out to meet a wagon train, as well as the wagon train drivers and their escorts. The end of August 1865, Battle of the Tongue River. Connor's columns destroy an Arapaho village, including all the winter's food, supply, tents, and clothes. They kill over 50 of the Arapaho villages, mostly women and children. Late September 1865, Roman Noses fight. The Cheyenne chief Roman Nose, in revenge for the Sand Creek Massacre, led several hundred Cheyenne warriors in a siege of the Cole and Walker columns of exhausted and starving soldiers who were attempting to return to Fort Laramie. Because they were armed only with two bows, lances, and a few old trade guns, they were unable to overrun the soldiers, but they harassed them for several days until Connor's returning column rescued them. October 14, 1865, Southern Cheyenne chief signs a treaty, agreeing to cede all the land they formerly claimed as their own, most of Colorado Territory, to the U.S. government. This was the desired end of the Sand Creek Massacre. October 1865, Connors returned to Fort Laramie, leaving two companies of soldiers at the river they had constructed at the foot of the Crazy Woman Creek and the Powder River. Chief Red Cloud and his warriors kept these men isolated and without supplies all winter. Many died of scurvy, malnutrition, and pneumonia before winter's end. They were not relieved until June 28th by Colonel Cavington's company. Late fall 1865, 9 more treaties signed with the Sioux, including the Brulés, Hopapas, Oglalas, Manapajus. These were widely advertised as signifying the end of the Plains War, although none of the war chiefs had signed any of these treaties. April 1, 1866, Congress overrides President Johnson's veto of the Civil Rights Bill, giving equal rights to all persons born in the United States except Indians. The president is empowered to use the Army to enforce the law. Late spring 1866, War Chiefs Red Cloud, Spotted Tail, Standing Elk, Dull Knife, and others come to Fort Laramie to negotiate a treaty concerning access to the Powder River Basin. Shortly after the beginning of the talks on June 13, Colonel Henry Carrington and several hundred infantrymen reached Fort Laramie to build forts along the Bozeman Trail. It was clear to the chiefs that the treaty was a mere formality. The road would be open whether they agreed to it or not. This was the beginning of Red Cloud's War.
After 19 years of occupation, 1934, the United States pulls out of Haiti. But the nation remains torn by tension between the wealthier French-speaking mulatto minority and the overwhelming majority of impoverished Black Creole speakers. 1957, Francois Papadoc Duvalier becomes leader, declaring himself president for life in 1964 and ruling through terror perpetrated by his notorious street gangs known as the Tonton Macoute. 1971, Jean-Claude Duvalier, known as Baby Doc, becomes president at the age of 19, succeeding his father, who dies in office.
December 21, 1866, the Fetterman Massacre. Earlier this summer, young Lakota warriors, including Crazy Horse, executed an elaborate decoy maneuver to draw soldiers out of the fort. They were very successful and killed several officers and severely wounded several other soldiers. In the next week, an ambush was carefully planned and a location for a trap was chosen. 2,000 warriors moved south and set up a camp 2 miles north of the chosen trap location. 10 young warriors were selected from different tribal groups represented from the most dangerous job of decoying the soldiers. These decoys performed elaborate maneuvers to lure the soldiers into the trap. When they were all inside the trap, the decoys signaled to the concealed warriors, who rose up and killed all 80 of the soldiers. Nevertheless, casualties among Indians were great because they were poorly armed to compete with the new repeating rifles of the soldiers.